Hello, BookTube. I have a little bit of mail for you today. A humid, overcast Sunday. Uh, I'm glad not to have the sun. If it's this humid, it's like 80 or 85% humidity, so that is a little bit cloying. It's one step removed from the crispness of autumn, but it's at least not a heat wave. So, but apparently, this package came very late here to Hyde Cottage and was deposited on the front porch. The front porch, which is looking more and more like something out of The Ruins by Scott Smith. The plants are the hedges and the trees and the various leaves and vines are encroaching everywhere out there. I'm not going to do anything about it. They won't survive the winter if we have a winter in Boston. But this was brought to my little nest this morning by my surly houseboy. So it's Sunday mail, and I know what it is. I took a glance at it, and I know what it is. It is not a violation of rule number 1. For all of you new people on this channel, rule number 1 is don't send me a book. It might seem natural because I'm surrounded by books. Oh, I love books. Well, I do. I absolutely love books. They are my avocation. They are my vocation. I love them. But that doesn't mean you should send me something that you like just because you want me to have it. Because I would be up to my eyeballs if people did that. I have read a lot. I know what I like, and I like what I know. When it comes to acquiring a book, there is no chance whatsoever that you are going to randomly find something, think, oh, Steve would like that, and be right about it. There are only a couple of people in the world who can do that and be right, and you're not one of them. Neither one of them watch this channel. So the rule number 1 here is don't send me a book. But you can get around rule number 1 in 2 ways. One is to call in-store credit at the Brattle Bookshop here in Boston, because I go there all the time, and a store credit called into the Brattle will certainly get spent on books that not only will I enjoy, but that you will see, because I will do a Brattle book haul. Or 2, you can let me know ahead of time. You can canvass me about it. Some of you have this well-meaning but adolescent fixation with surprises that no, I don't want to ask you about it because that'd spoil the surprise. Believe me, the disappointment of spoiling the surprise for you is a lot less than the disappointment of opening a box that you went to the bother of mailing me and seeing a book or 2 books or 3 books that I am just going to have to get rid of, that I don't want at all. I'm not going to keep them just because you sent them to me, and I'm not going to keep them if I don't want them. So some of you have got around the spoil of not having a surprise by letting me know that you want to send me books and sending me pictures. Are these of interest? Are those of interest? That works quite well, and I think that's what we have here. We have a box that's been taped to a fare thee well. So let's see what we have here. Okay, yeah, I think this is going to be what I thought. So, first thing, a paperback of Alexander Kent, Passage to Mutiny. These old paperbacks with the original artwork on them are the format in which I originally read Alexander Kent. These are Napoleonic era seafaring adventures along the lines of Horatio Hornblower. I got 2 of these. So I have Passage to Mutiny and Enemy in Sight, which I have read a couple of times and really like. This might be my favorite of the Alexander Kent Napoleonic novels like this. It might be. I got 2 of them. They were all of them were made in this format. For at least a dozen of them were made in this format, and I don't have any of them. So that's great. Then a Regency romance. We have The Duke's Wager by Edith Layton. What have we got here? Look at that, huh? There's a ginger, an angry orange-haired guy. The lovely Regina Berryman was pursued by 2 men, the most attractive and infamous bachelors in London. One was Jason Thomas, Duke of Torquay, whose skill and success in seduction had made him a legend in lordly licentiousness. The other is St. John Basil St. Charles, Marquess of Bessacar, the devilish duke's only rival as the foremost rake of the realm. These notorious gentlemen had made Regina fair game in a competition where all was considered legitimate strategy in winning her affection and capturing her virtue. And Regina's only chance of preserving her honor and protecting her heart was to turn the tables on her titled tempters and change the dallying ways of Regency London played the game of love. I'm always up for an old Signet Regency romance, always. So those are the paperbacks, and then we have hardcovers. Okay, this is The Service. Oh, I haven't read this in forever. When did this come out? 1972. These are the World War II memoirs of Reinhard Gehlen, a Nazi officer, Nazi General Reinhard Gehlen. And this book is now, it'll never be in print again. It's, I believe it was the first English language translation of these memoirs. Galen's not all that interesting. He's not all that pivotal. But the book is interesting and infamous because it was translated by David Irving, the disgraced British historian who was found guilty of anti-Semitism and lying about history in a British courtroom. Kind of an unsurvivable blow there to a career. No publisher is going to touch you if a British court has found you guilty of lying about history, especially when you're a historian like Irving who is dealing with previously untranslated German sources. Faber and Faber or Harcourt Brace is not going to have an expert on the German language equal to the task of finding out whether or not you're lying about the documents you're translating. Same thing is true here. If Irving, the reason that Irving was disgraced is because he looked too far into the abyss and it took him over, and it made him essentially a Nazi. It certainly made him completely sympathetic to everything about the Nazis and completely adversarial to everything against them. Well, if Galen's memoir contains all sorts of bitter, horrible, utterly indefensible, anti-Semitic, racist, anti-whatever Nazi sentiments, how faithful a translator is David Irving going to be? Or is he going to try to convey that Galen was what he conveyed Hitler to be, which was a harried, overworked, misunderstood European statesman? Who was busy at his table, at his work table at Berchtesgaden or whatever, telling his foremost advisors, look, just keep the Gauleiters off my back. They're always asking me for something or other. Let me get on with my work. In David Irving's twisted view, that is Hitler. And his twisted view is absolutely dependent on the fact that he never actually follows up by asking what that work is. That what that work was is conquering all of Europe and turning its inhabitants into slaves and turning its Jewish inhabitants into corpses. You know, that kind of changes the middle manager, I'm just trying to get on with things attitude. I haven't read this since it first came out. I never see it, so I'm very glad to have it. And I think we're not done with David Irving, if I remember correctly. Yeah, we're not done with David Irving. Okay. All right. This is what I imagine. I think that David Irving is still alive, and I think also, even more pathetically, that he's still writing and self-publishing books. But this is, I think this will be known as his masterpiece, if we call such a thing a masterpiece. I don't know how future generations will think of him. If they think of him at all. He has been neatly airbrushed out of World War II history, out of the study of World War II as a historical venue, as a historical era. He's been completely airbrushed out of that picture. So if you are a World War II historian, if you're a Nazi historian, a historian of the Nazi realm, he will be completely absent from your bibliography, even when you are consulting works that only he has ever translated. He will be completely absent from your bibliography. He has been erased completely, which is cowardly to do. Even though he is loathsome, that is still cowardly to do. And dishonest, I might add. It's as dishonest about the historical record as he was. So I don't know whether or not he will even be a figure of contention. Probably there'll be a tiny blip of attention when he does die. I'm not sure that he has died. I think I would have noticed that. Probably written something about it. Because I find him fascinating. I find him fascinating as a figure. I am not in any danger of succumbing to the same kind of dark ideologies that actually did claim him. But I find the phenomenon of him fascinating. Because he was formidable as a researcher, as a reader, and as a writer. His histories are fascinatingly good to read. They are page-turning to read. A lot of the Nazi-era historians who now make a career out of the whole subject matter probably were introduced to it by a David Irving book. And the person who sent the service and these delightful works of fiction also sent this, his big book, Hitler's War, in 2 volumes. So I'm assuming if this is 2 volumes, that this might be a book club edition, or maybe a later edition. Hitler's War featured prominently in the aforementioned trial that I was talking about, because you can trace David Irving's fall into fascism from the various editions of Hitler's War, where characterizations of Hitler get more and more glowing. They get more and more innocent. When Hitler was anything but innocent, he was personally responsible for everything. And you can also watch just in the index, even if you don't read the book, you can watch in subsequent editions of Hitler's War how mentions of things like Auschwitz change, how they change. So in the original edition, they are horrific, racist extermination camps, and then that starts to change. That starts to lessen until finally you get to the point that Irving has dug in on, and I don't think will ever change, of saying that no one was killed for cultural or political reasons at any Nazi death camp, that they died of typhoid, whatever it is. David Irving's infamous quote was that more people died on the back seat of Ted Kennedy's car at Chappaquiddick than ever died at Auschwitz, of murder, than were ever murdered at Auschwitz. It's unsalvageable, and I think part of my fascination with the man is that a romantic part of my soul hopes that if he is still alive and if he is still compos mentis, he lost a lot of mental strokes in the last 20 years, that he would recant, if not a book, then an article. There's not a journal in the world that wouldn't print that article, if they've edited it and it was heartfelt, of him saying, I did lose my life to this. I lost my life to Nazism exactly as much as any teenage boy who lost his life to it because he succumbed to the ideology and then was shot dead on the front. I lost my life the same way. If he wrote something like that, if he recanted, I know it's silly of me to think because people don't recant, but if he did, that would be fascinating to read. That if something could pierce the fog, but and nothing will. So I think it's fascinating as a phenomenon. And every time I get a copy of Hitler's War, I always check to see what edition it is and then give chunks of it a reread. Not only because I want to pick my way around what this guy, who could have been a towering historian, is doing with what he's relating to the reader, but also in order to see how he's changing it, how he's warping it. So it becomes, a book like this becomes a case study and a demonstration of what was put on trial in London. I find the whole thing fascinating. I don't advise it. If you are interested, I don't advise it because your reading time is very, very precious. It's in very short supply. Mine really is not. So I can afford to give time to a fraudulent historian. If you are interested to read, if you're interested to read about the phenomenon of David Irving, definitely don't start with his own books. They're not trustworthy. They might be readable, but they're not trustworthy. And there are a handful of books. There are 2 or 3 books about him that are trustworthy and that are very good to read. But if you're interested in Nazi Germany, well, then you don't have the time to spare on something that is obviously fraudulent. You don't have the time to do that. There's too much written about it that isn't to spare you doing this. It's just a fascination of mine. That's all. But anyway, that's it for this box. It's David Irving. It's a David Irving fest, and then it's harmless genre fiction. So a perfect balance. And I want to thank the person who sent it very much. This is always wonderful to get packages of books in the mail, but also fun to get something on a Sunday, especially in the middle of a long weekend. Tomorrow is Labor Day. There won't be any mail here in Boston, so gross. but we'll find something to talk about, I'm sure. So anyway, there you go. A box of books in the mail. Lots of David Irving, but that's okay. So I'll wrap this up, and I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.